Good afternoon to my sisters, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or just kind of clicked on my website. I want to just say a good Monday afternoon to you. You know, Mondays are usually the day that I rest. I do nothing but rest because my Sundays are typically always filled with church. And yesterday was certainly no different. I of course, I always do a 9 a.m. radio broadcast. And then for the 10 o'clock hour at my church, I had to speak. And of course, I'd studied all week, throughout the week for that, to be prepared because the Lord had a message for me to deliver. And so, of course, I prepared for that. And then went on into regular again to the regular 11:15 worship service. So some of the times during this pandemic, I've been away from the sanctuary, but as often as I can, by my own faith, knowing that in that sanctuary I am safe, you know, with the distancing and masking and all of the cleaning and everything that goes on in our church. So I feel safe, you know, not stupidly safe, but safe that it is God's will that we should be there. So anyway, just want to share that with you. So I did have a full day yesterday, but today not being able to do what I usually do on Mondays, and that's just rest because I'm getting ready to go out to catch the bank and do some things because, you know, I live on the Gulf of Mexico, and unheard of, we have two tropical depressions out there heading toward the Gulf of Mexico. One is not going to bring us, said that it's not going to bring us any more than a lot of rain, a lot of flooding, and some wind. And it's really almost, Marco, I think it is, almost dissipated. But then we're looking forward to another one coming our way by midweek around Wednesday or so, and it may or may not hit us. And for me, I don't take that lightly because they almost to the date, August 29, 2005, I experienced my first Hurricane Katrina, and it was very devastating. Thanking God that me and my children and all came out with our lives, but we came out with nothing else. Totally lost everything else. Was so ill prepared for that storm. That turned out to be the worst disaster in our nation's history. And so certainly we won't be caught like that this time. By the time they say hurricane hitting Gulf of Mexico in the Biloxi area, we're going to be already on our way out. So I have to do some things to prepare for that. So I'm thanking God, you know, to being able to financially and otherwise to be able to prepare to evacuate if we have to. That's why I would just stop and sit down for a minute and talk to my sisters because, you know, there are different storms in life. We can prepare for storms like a hurricane, tornadoes you can't, but whenever there's a hurricane out there, we usually know in advance and we can prepare. However, some people are not prepared. They're not able to prepare because they weren't wise. And you know, last week we talked about the 10 virgins, some the wise one and the unwise one. So as we go on into this weekend, as I do my Wednesday teaching for you, we're going to talk about being prepared, just being prepared in life. Always I want to talk about being prepared for your eternal salvation. And certainly we won't ever leave that out. But I also want to talk to you about just being prepared for things in your life. And again, there are a lot of different storms, not just storms that come off the coast of Africa and they end up in the Gulf of Mexico. And then you're told that it's going to hit Louisiana, it's going to hit Texas, and then ultimately it's going to hit right here where I am. And we can be prepared for that, you know, if we're wise. If we're foolish, we still can't because we don't have anything to prepare with. And in a time like this with the pandemic, oh my God, that you would have to end up in a shelter and be so close, and there's no such thing as distancing and all. So I want you all to pray for the people that are in the line of that hurricane. Pray for the people that are in California and the line of the fires and everything. Just pray for the people. Before I go today, the Spirit just led me to read a scripture to you and I want you to study it also. It's from Matthew chapter 14, and it reads thus. And they said unto him, we have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. These were the disciples talking to Jesus. And he said, bring them hither to me. And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and took the 5 loaves. He took the 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat and were filled, and they took up the fragments that remained, 12 basketful. And they that had eaten, about 5,000 men, besides women and children. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get up into the ship, and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitude away. And when he had sent the multitude away, he went up into the mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he were there alone, Jesus here. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went unto them walking on the sea, around 3 a.m. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it is a spirit, and they cried out for fear. They stopped being afraid of the water and the wind. And they thought a spirit to be walking upon the sea. And so the scripture said they cried out in fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer. Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. Jesus is saying that to someone today. Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. Whatever your storm is in life, whatever storm you may be facing, be of good cheer. Because Jesus is saying to you, it is I. You have to be able to receive him, though, to be able to be of that good cheer, to know that all is going to be well. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, come. And when Peter were come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore did thou doubt? And when they were coming to the ship, the wind ceased. Then they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, O of a truth, thou art the Son of God. I want you to know, as I've always been saying to you throughout the month of August, we're going to switch gears a little bit in September, but we're still going to be saying and claiming the same thing, that Jesus is real. Don't wait until you're drowning. Don't wait until the wind and it's boisterous and the storms of life are hitting you so hard that you don't know what to do. The storms are hitting you so hard that you lose sight of everything else. Jesus is telling you to step out and be of good cheer. And you're like Peter walking on the water. But then when the wind gets strong again, you lose faith and you start doubting. Number one, Jesus is saying, how could you doubt me? You were in the ship with me before, and I saved you. I ceased the wind. You just saw me feed 5,000 men, not including their women and children. You saw me take those little fish and a piece of bread, and you saw me